again, friends, and welcome to another episode of Culture Crossroads. I'm Andrew Southwick, and we are excited to bring you another episode here today. Tons to talk about, but just getting started. I mean, I'm on the road here, so I don't even have my normal road gear. I forgot my computer, using a different computer. I forgot my normal microphone. I forgot my ears. As you can see, I got my headphones. I'm all discombobulated. RC, Julianna, how are you guys doing this week?
Andrew, doing great, man. You know what? If that isn't the times, right? But before we came on tonight, we were talking about the fact that Father always puts us in a position he needs us in to do what he needs us to do.
It's humbling.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when I called my wife when I got here. I'm filming a documentary which is going to air as a part of Culture Crossroads in a few months. And when I got down to the hotel where I was staying, I'm looking through my bags. I'm like, where's my laptop? Which is where I have most of the clips that I play on the show and all that come off of there. And I thought, man, did I leave it at the gas station? I mean, you know, I'm notorious for doing that kind of stuff. I left my wallet once on top of the roof of the car getting gas. And fortunately, my wife actually found my wallet in the middle of the road. We went around picking up all my cards and stuff. So I'm that kind of scatterbrained. But anyway, nonetheless, God makes a way, and he certainly has here today. So enough about that nonsense. Let's get into what is going on here with the rundown, all the news and notes you need to know in no particular order. And I'm going to combine this first story with Faith Focus because, and I just want to mention this, we had Donald Trump say, well, not the State of the Union, but it was his first speech since being back in office. And it wasn't what he said so much that I took away from it. And I didn't watch it live. I watched it in pieces since it aired. But it wasn't what he said, but it was the response, and particularly the responses from the Democrats on things that are clearly not partisan. Now, on the one hand, Donald Trump, he played politics pretty well, actually. I mean, he definitely won the political game in that speech. No question about it. You have CBS came out with a poll right afterwards, 51% identifying as Republican, 26% identifying as independents, and it had something like a 76 overall approval rating, which meant basically all the Republicans and all the independents liked it. Democrats didn't. But here's what I saw, and this is where I'm careful, and you'll have to tell me if I'm jumping off the deep end here, friends. I always want to be respectful to people. You know, we talk about policy, and I'll make fun of policy, and I'll make fun of, you know, the Republican and the Democrat parties, the apparatus, if you will, apparatus. Yeah. But I want to be careful to respect people because every person is a creation of God, and Jesus did die and raise again for them, even if they reject him. So everybody has that intrinsic value because we are creations of God, even if we are not his children, whether or not we receive him. But there is also clearly a spiritually demonic influence, and I don't use those words hyperbolically, I don't use those words sensationally, that yes is in all parties and all of politics, but clearly has a public foothold in the Democrat Party. And I'm willing to say that right now. They sat on their hands all night long. And I just want to bring up a couple of just three stories that Trump mentioned. One, there was a young man who wanted to go to West Point, and he called him out and said, hey, you're accepted. You get to go to West Point. This is just a kid who wanted to go to West Point. Whether or not Donald Trump let him in or Joe Biden or whomever, the kid is the point. Right. Good for you. Good for you. Can we not say good for you? I mean, for crying out loud, if the Democrats had their way, they would use the military as another woke device. They'd be thrilled. They think maybe they could turn him into a woman pretty soon, you know, but unfortunately they're not in the driver's seat. So they're sitting on their hands. Then, of course, we all know the Laken Riley bill. And of course, she was murdered by an illegal immigrant. clearly avoidable, especially since we see now the illegal border crossings are dropping to record low levels. All you have to do is enforce the laws we have, and not try to commit a coup through a willing invasion that you're self-fulfilling prophecying yourself. Well, they couldn't stand up for that either. They couldn't clap for it. They're not for that. And then here's the one that, because this one also, the left-wing pundits afterwards, what they said, and I'll bring up one. 13-year-old young man with brain cancer. President Trump made him a deputy Secret Service agent, and they celebrated him and that kind of thing. The implication being his prognosis for how many years he has left, the child, is not a lot. And that's sad. And the Democrats just sat there, grumpy, frumpy, dumpy. They hated it. Again, this is not about Trump. I realize you can say, oh, well, you can be cynical and they're using it as a political ploy, and they always do that kind of thing. But can we not at least be happy for people? And here's the thing: the next, it wasn't hours later, MSNBC, or I think as Mark Levin calls it, MSLSD. That's a good one. Although I think they've graduated onto some other concoctions. At any rate, Nicole Wallace on her program said she lamented. She hopes that this young 13-year-old boy with brain cancer doesn't kill himself over thoughts about January 6th. She said this. What? Who says that? I hope you don't, congratulations, I hope you don't kill yourself. Who says that? Who says that? Now, Nicole Wallace, all the Democrat senators, congressmen, they're all creations. As people, they are creations of God. But there is a demonic, influential stronghold that is using that party that now has got them so brainwashed, so backwards, so caught up in this dogma of devils, dogma of hell, that they can't even be happy for some kids who are getting an opportunity of a lifetime. It used to be we disagreed on policy. That is, we agreed what America was. But maybe we disagreed on how we accomplished those things. And that was, for most of our history, the differences, at least on the broad political realm. These are not people anymore who want to coexist. These are not a tolerant people. These are not people who want to share a country. They don't want us around. They sat there in disdain. The 13-year-old boy with brain cancer may or may not live long enough to vote even once, right? And that's all they care about is our votes, our indentured servitude at the ballot box.
Right.
But they can't even be happy for him because it made me so sick to my stomach. And this influence cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be negotiated with. The only way forward is defeat. They must be defeated. These people, and if I'm a Democrat voter, I would like to think that if I'm a Democrat voter, I'd be looking at these petulant little kindergarten pipsqueaks, and I'd be embarrassed. If I were a Democrat congressman or senator sitting in that room, I'd be embarrassed. Not because I'm a Democrat, but because we are now we are just at the point where it doesn't matter if something is even objectively good. If one side says it, the other side is going to call it evil. We on the show we'll call balls and strikes fairly. Listen, it's not a bad idea just because a Democrat comes up with it. I just haven't heard them come up with a good idea in a while. But I believe that's because they're so caught up in this demonic influence. And it brought me to a couple of verses in 1 Timothy, and then I'll turn it over to you guys for some comment. But I want to read this verse to you here. This is 1 Timothy 4:1-2. And Paul is writing, the Apostle Paul, he says, "Now the Spirit expressly says that in later times some will depart from the faith by devoting themselves to deceitful spirits and teachings of demons, through the insincerity of liars whose consciences are seared." Now, specifically and expressly, Paul's talking about there'll be people who claim to be Christians and they depart from the faith, but he's also talking about the demonic influence that's going to overtake culture in the later days. And that the people we see are like the teachers following the deceitful spirits that he talks about in those verses. And they've been so deceived that their consciences have been seared, and that means desensitized or rendered ineffective, in other words. It's not that those people, again, it's not that they are not creations of God and therefore they don't have that eternal value. So I want to be careful. I'm not calling them the people demons, but I am saying they are under demonic influence and they are clearly hooked into it to the degree that they don't, it's not that they don't have a conscience, but it's been neutered. And they can sit there and look at a child who is dying and not even give him the courtesy of a pity clap. I don't know how we share a country with this. What do you think?
Andrew, so this is actually what we covered on this week's We Are the Watchmen Weekly. We dug into this with scripture. That's how important it is. It is a sad testament to where we're at, that things that are not partisan, kid getting into West Point, Lincoln Riley, this young man who has terminal cancer, who Trump made a Secret Service, deputy Secret Service agent, these are nonpartisan things. They don't require a party affiliation to be happy for someone. Pity clap. We're at a point now where there is no other good answer other than what you shared about demonic influence.
So you're seeing literally the demonic influence. I mean, once upon a time, yeah, we were more together, the Democrats and the Republicans, right? And we were together on, things that were not for the country. And now all of a sudden you're seeing such a divide that you're seeing the demonic in what's going on, right? The Republican Party, the Democrat Party, and what it is that they're doing, that they can sit there and not have a heart about what's going on with these individual lives, that we're at the point as a society that we can't even come together under those circumstances. I don't know about the rest of my, believing brothers and sisters out there, but this is a really sad time that we can't even, come together and unify because of the people. Put policies aside. Aren't you supposed to love your brother and sister?
Yeah, it's insane. And then if this is what we see, if this is how they're going to behave and act and how they see the world, which clearly it is, because they were willing to do it on the biggest stage they're going to have as a full body politic. So if they're willing to do that in public, then that's their view. I can't draw any other conclusion. If that's the case, how can we say that any vote that they cast or any bill that they write actually has the good of America at its core? I don't think we can. And I'm not saying that because I disagree with policy. I'm saying that because there's no other way to express that than just an absolute demonic trance, demonic spirit of the age that, yes, is in both parties. I'm not arguing that, but clearly is front and center and tattooed on the foreheads and the wrists of the Democrat Party apparatus. And we need to understand that going forward. I think where the hope is that, and I think this is also part of what is causing our political shift in America. And as Christians and conservatives, when we cast our vote nationally, right, we now have some different alliances that exist, and I don't know how long they will exist, but we're sharing voting booths with people we never thought we would. And of course, we used to think that was just our policy differences. But now this party has gone so far off into the abyss that even those, there's almost no place for anybody. But anyway, I want to bring that up because I know a lot of people have been talking about obviously the speech and they're running the clips and all this. And again, I'm sorry I don't have my computer to run the clips for us here on this episode. But that's what stuck out to me the most. And before we move on, just I guess to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, I do think that if we understand that, and if we understand what we're up against, we can overcome. It can be beaten back. Demons are losers. Okay, they fight a losing battle in a war they've already lost. We're just seeing the loss play out. Okay, we have to remember that. All right, and at times, when a loser is losing, it's not like they don't fight back and they don't land a couple of jabs and it doesn't hurt. And they might even knock us on our tail. But they are engaged in a losing battle. We have to recognize that, and we have to come to the table as the winners that we actually are. Did anything stick out to you from Trump's speeches you want to mention before we move on to the other stories?
So I'm concerned about the fact that he said things like, oh, we're going to, I got us out of the WHO, but then where's the money going? It's going to Gavi, to Bill Gates. We're freer than we've ever been, but he's entertaining signing the Noahide laws, which will not allow us ever to say Yeshua HaMashiach or Jesus Christ. We will never be able to do that. So his speech was great, but let's look between the lines. And what he didn't say that was really important, the narrative was really shaped. The propaganda went out there into the ether and everybody got to hear. But what did they not hear that they needed to hear from Trump? Okay. It was not said. We need to talk about bringing in the digital currencies and what does that really mean? We need to talk about, are we going to usurp the 10 Commandments or bring in the Noahide laws? Talk about the things that we really need to be talking about as a country. When you start shaping the country and changing the way we are, because we're a Judeo-Christian country, right? That's a reshaping. I need to be part of that conversation.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on to the next story here. And this was one, as this story broke a couple of weeks ago, and it was, most of you probably don't know who these people are. The Tate brothers, Andrew and Tristan. Now, even if I had my computer, I would not be playing their clips because I don't want to platform these despicable people in any other way. And I'm actually, it bothers me to say their names, but I have to for the point of the story. I did put together a video that I posted on my X account, and for both of my followers there, you can find that if you want to. So if you want to see the video, you can see it on my X account, CC Podcast 2023. Hey, that's when I started it. Anyway, okay. These are self-admitted pimps, self-admitted pornographers. They were on house arrest in Romania and charged with human trafficking and rape. They were then brought back to America, and they were able to fly in a private jet and land in South Florida. Now, first, it was interesting. Why are they coming back? Now, President Trump was asked about this in a press conference. He said, "I don't know what the heck's going on with that." I can believe that. Now the Tate brothers, Andrew Tate, he's on videos even recently saying that he's friends with the Trump family. He's been pictured with Donald Trump Jr. Now, all that means nothing. It could have been a picture line, who knows, and how he's going to shape it. He's a liar anyway, so I'm not going to believe the things that he's going to say to his credit or not. Many of his despicable acts, particularly when it comes to just violent acts towards women, he recorded them, and you can find them online. They're not hard to find. And the initial thing that I found curious was because Andrew Tate recently made the rounds. He was on Tucker Carlson. Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, they took over the gold DEIB mic from Rush Limbaugh. They were gushing over him just not too long ago. A few weeks ago, he was on Benny Johnson with Alina Habba, who's one of Trump's legal advisors, and she was gushing how wonderful and what a big fan she is. And here's the thing: do these people not ever see what's on the internet? Do they not know? Do they really not know? I just don't see a world where they don't know. If I know, they have way more information than me. How can they not know? What is the value of cozying up, at least in the right-wing media, with cretins like this? Now, to the state of Florida's credit, Ron DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, called up Florida, this from the rightscoop.com. Florida Attorney General opens a criminal investigation into Andrew and Tristan Tate, issuing a search warrant from his ex account. Attorney General James Uthmeier says last week, I directed my office to work with our law enforcement partners to conduct a preliminary inquiry into Andrew and Tristan Tate. Based on a thorough review of the evidence, I've directed the Office of Statewide Prosecution to execute search warrants and issue subpoenas. And it goes on from there. That I tip my hat about. The only reason they should be coming back to America is so we can charge them with crimes here. And maybe that was the case. Now, again, there's a lot of inside baseball we're not privy to. Maybe that was why they brought them back. And if so, A+, hats off. Let's bring these people to justice. They should not be out on the street. And again, if you want to see, I've juxtaposed comments of right-wing media fawning over these two, and then with videos of Andrew Tate and the things that he has done to women, the things that he has said. He is apparently a quote unquote he's certainly a social media influencer in terms of masculinity, but his is not masculinity at all, because masculinity doesn't act like that. But I wanted to wait till I got more of this story, put together before we talked about it, because I didn't want to just respond emotionally. But these are some of the most despicable people that walk the face of the earth. A bigger question is, and the question I have to you coming off of this, is why do you think that right-wing media cozies up with all these cretins and, honestly, icky people, just because maybe somewhere they say a few things that could be construed as somewhat right-leaning?
I'm going to start by saying it's their job. The media has been given their marching orders on what they should be talking about and how they should be talking about it and what the propaganda needs to look like and how are we shaping the minds of the people that are still watching. Fortunately, there's more of the yous and I's that are out there that are having these conversations, that are waking people up, because we're just talking about the balls and strikes that are going on out there, right? We're not giving our own we're not slanting things. It's just, this is what it is. Here's the truth. So more of us need to be out there just talking about it so that we can say, we need to put pressure on the Trump administration and on the media and say, what's really going on here? And why are you not being forthcoming with what's really going on?
Yeah. Andrew, I would add that the Tate brothers are on video talking about their pimperish exploits and their trafficking and prostitution and everything else. I want people to keep that in mind. And to Julianna's point, this is about money. The conservative influencers are doing that because they're being paid to. Their handlers have told them to. A quick tie-in, the foolishness with the Epstein files release with the folders shows you yet again that this conservative influencer network is kind of a strange thing, an animal of its own, where talking points are manufactured, everybody works in lockstep. Doesn't sound much different than what progressives did. And what we've been saying is that the conservative media influencer universe is having its reckoning right now. So to your question directly, how do they platform someone like Andrew Tate? Because that's what they're paid to do. Andrew, and who's going to take the fall for it? It's hard to tell right now, but what you see, you cannot unsee, and the internet is forever. It is also undefeated. So it'll be interesting to see what they say when the Tate brothers get arrested or something else bad happens. But basically, you've just given this guy an even bigger bullhorn.
And again, hats off to Governor DeSantis, hats off to the state of Florida for not sitting on their hands and doing something. The crimes, if And this is not finding a person you don't like and then looking for a crime. These are people who admit to being thugs. And so these crimes should not be hard to find. They believe there's enough evidence to issue subpoenas for search warrants and so on. And so at least there, and I can't imagine what is going on nationally. The Romanian foreign minister did say in one report that it was Rick Grinnell who made inquiries about the Tate brothers to get them extradited back to America. Now, all that was said was that America was interested in the fate of the Tate brothers. I don't know what that means for better or worse. Maybe it means we were interested because we had charges we wanted to press. Maybe it means we were interested because we think, that they're going to earn us money in the GOP right-wing media sphere. I have no idea. But that's what's there. And hopefully there will be justice here and we'll stop platforming these numbskulls, because for crying out loud. This is MSN.com. Deutsche Bank sees risk of U.S. dollar losing safe haven status. From the article, Bloomberg, the U.S. dollar may lose its traditional safe haven status as global markets adjust to a new geopolitical order, according to the Deutsche Bank AG. What is going on here?
So Deutsche Bank, enjoy your criminal scammers, right? They're right up there in line with JP Morgan. But it's interesting they made that statement now around what Trump is doing economically and how the dollar is potentially going to lose its world reserve status because of the quote unquote chaos. There's a quote in the piece from one of the leaders of Deutsche Bank. Andrew, this ties into something we've been talking about for almost 2 years about where we're at with the reserve status of the dollar and where the world economies are in general. Because let's be honest, whether it's Deutsche Bank or JP Morgan or whatever, there was a piece out earlier this week that the banks have so much toxic or bad debt on their books that the only thing that is keeping them afloat is government intervention. We're quickly coming to the end of that road. The other thing is that you're now being prepared for what's going to be a controlled demolition of not only the U.S. economy, but economies around the world. So they're trying to control it so you don't completely freak out, but they're letting you know, hey, look, the road's going to be bumpy. Now, if you followed this show or ripped from the headlines or any of our publications or seen us do anything, we've long prepared you for this and told you it was coming. Well, now you're at that chapter in the story. Yep. All Deutsche Bank is doing is letting the normies know that they're about to get hit by a freight train.
How do we hedge against this? I know that I know we've talked about some different digital currencies and things like that, certainly gold and silver in terms of practical ways, but politically and in terms of policy, do you see any shield that America can take against the U.S. dollar no longer being seen as the safe haven globally?
I think it's time that we've got a new story that we need to write. And it's one about having parallel economies where we have different types of currencies that we can pull from so that we can determine which currency we want to use in our country. Not that they're funneling us into a centralized digital currency where they can control and manipulate what we're doing on a daily basis, but a really decentralized, different parallel economies, different money so that we can really, if you want strength in the country, you need to have the currency be strong, American currency that we can have for ourselves, not a central bank digital currency, not central bank being, controlling everything that's happening, but we the people controlling what our economics looks like.
Andrew, there's an important point that Julianna mentioned about parallel economies. Preparing at your family level to ensure that you have what you need, and then your community in and of itself. Because when something goes sideways, all economies instantly become local, right? But people don't instantly go into a survival mode. They're still going to be looking for a level of normalcy. So how you structure your community to be prepared with the things you need, whether it's food, other things that you need to prepare, or even a method of exchange, something like gold-backed notes, which were actually in the movie Homestead, which was about a grit down event where people were trying to figure out the best way to conduct exchange and survive this thing. You've got to be ready for that. So that begins by thinking practically, not only about you, because no one alone will survive something like this, but how your community is going to work.
Darcy and Julianna, thank you for being with us. So we are going to